We all know palmistry is a very ancient science. On the basis of those facts, we come to inference in various ways. These days, we are studying about marriage line on hand. Today, we will see the different phases of marriage life. Now, we are starting from the happy marriage. Happy marriage. Cross or star on the mount of Jupiter. Second, double line or influence on the mount of Venus. Sister line to the faith line. Fourth, influence line from the mount of Moon emerging into the faith line. Fifth, girdle of Venus presents only in one hand. Sixth, cross on the mount of Jupiter and a line from the bracelet going to a vertical line on the mount of Venus. Seventh, single line of marriage running straight and parallel to the line of earth. Eighth, long and clear line of marriage with a cross on the mount of Mercury. Ninth, deep and well cut line of marriage with good color. 10th, line starting from a star on the mount of Venus and going to the line of Earth and ending in a frog. Now the brilliant marriage line. First, faith line starting from the mount of Moon and emerging in the heart line. Second, good and parallel distance between the line of heart and head. Rising branch from the line of marriage going to the mount of sun. Fourth, rising branch from the line of marriage going to the mount of sun and a star on the end of sun line. Fifth, line of influence from the mount of Moon joining a small line running parallel to the head line. Unhappy marriage line. First, Saturnian. Second, presence of girdle of Venus and a wide gap between the line of faith and life. Third, head line separate from the lifeline and running to the mount of Moon. Poor line of earth and first phalanges of thumb, broad and short. Fourth, line of influence on the Mount of Venus joined at the start to the life of line. Fifth, line of influence from the Mount of Venus cutting the line of faith. Sixth, rising line from the Mount of Life crossing by the line from the Mount of Mars or Venus. Greed on the Mount of Jupiter. Occupational unhappy in marriage. Appearance of Iceland on the marriage line. Late marriage, a Saturnian. Marriage line starting with a frog or island. No marriage. Cross on the first phalange of Mercury finger. Influence line on the line of Venus running away from the lifeline. Third, line of marriage curving upward. Obstruction and objections to marriage. Line of the Mount of Mercury cutting the line of marriage line. Second, marriage line is starting with Ireland. Clashes in marriage line. First, line from the second phalanges of thumb touching the line of life. A spot touching the marriage line. Lifeline ending in frog on the Mount of Venus. Fifth, influence line cutting a frog line. Falling line from the heart line. Marriage line pointing toward the heart line. Marriage between near relatives. Island on termination of marriage line with another island at the base of the region phalanges of thumb. Physical disparity between husband and wife. Greed on the Mount of Venus. Horizontal line on the Mount of Venus. Loss of riches and position after marriage. Marriage line terminating on the Mount of Sun and cutting the Sun line. Prosperity and riches after marriage. First, marriage line terminating on the Sun and no cutting the line of Sun. Rising branch from the marriage line. Sun line starting from the heart line. Bulging bracelet. Fifth, rising branch from the lifeline of Mount of Saturn. Marriage line ending in separation. Line starting from a spot of the Sun and cutting the branch of the lifeline and cross on the Mount of Jupiter. Second, island on the marriage line. Third, other line of faith line joining to baby and chained line of faith. Periodic separation. Frog on the marriage line at both the ends. Co-wife. branches rising from the heart line under Mount of Mercury. Trump over the obstacle in marriage. The line of faith and heart frog at the start and line of hate going to the mount of positive marks. Broken engagement. Break on the heart line. Influence line on the mount of moon crossing the faith line. Misfortune in marriage. Island on the line of influence on the mount of moon. Second, loss of partner. Cross at the place where the marriage line drop down to the line of earth. Faith line is starting from a frog and one branch of frog going to the mount of Neptune and other to the mount of Venus. Marrying a window. First phalanges of Jupiter finger as a start as the nail. Marrying more than one. Thick finger of Saturn. Marrying an old person. Line from the bracelet to the mount of Neptune and then to the mount of Venus. Marrying a trader. A line from the bracelet to the mount of Venus, then the mount of Mercury. Second marriage. Two marriage lines and a small line on the faith line joining to the heart line and the side of Jupiter mount. Break in the faith line and overlapping line ending on the line of Jupiter.